Hi, everybody. Hello, hello. Here we are, Monday live stream for the last symptom. Give some folks time to trickle in. Hope you're all doing well. I'm just going over some notes here and seeing what might be fun for us to talk about. Of course, you folks might have your own things to talk about, and well, I'm happy to do that too. So type in the chat there and let me know how you're doing. If you got the hankering to do so. See some people coming in. Let's start off the conversation with this. I don't know if I've done it in a show or if I've just had this conversation with people on an individual basis, but I've talked to them about being observers, not participants. What do I mean? What I mean is that when you're around a lot of unhealthy people, if you're not careful, you can begin to absorb. Hi, David. Good to see you here on Locals. You can begin to absorb that. Hello, Carrie. So nice to see you on Locals. You can begin to absorb that. You can begin to absorb your environment, and then you can begin to participate in the emotionally unhealthy dance that emotionally unhealthy people do. So I've always told people to be observers. Practice being an observer, not a participant. And what I mean is that you're observing the emotionally unhealthy ways of communication and attitudes and perspectives that the people around you have, but you're not participating in it. Why would you be observing it? Well, you'd be observing it to draw lessons from it for use in your own personal life. It's not a judgment thing. Like I'm superior to these people because I know these things about emotional health and they don't. It's not that sort of thing. Carrie says she's working from home, so mostly just listening. All right, well, so happy to have you here today. Can you give us an idea of where home is? Is that in the northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere? Is it in Europe, the United States? So, can you work on that? Being an observer, not in a judgmental type of way, but just in what am I able to observe here is unhealthy about these people's interactions with each other or their motivations for their interactions with other people, and at the same time not participate in it. So that was my wording. Now there's somebody in our last symptom group on Locals who I was talking to not long ago, and she says I've taken that observe, don't participate thing, and I've kind of tweaked it for my own personal use. I said, "Oh, tell me about it." She says, "Well, what I like to think is observe, not absorb." I said, "Well, that's pretty good. That's pretty good because absorbing leads to participating." So can you practice that? Observing people and their emotionally unhealthy ways of thinking and doing things, but not absorb it so that your emotions get involved and then you participate in it. Well, hello, Anna. It's been a while. Are you back home? Anna was traveling abroad, abroad for her for a while, and it's good to see you, Anna. Carrie's in San Antonio, Texas. Carrie, did you get any of the storm weather that they got hit with in? Oh, where was it? They're in Texas. I know Texas is really big. Where was that storm? They had a tornado or something right down in the city. Houston. Did you get any of that Houston stuff? And Anna is finally back home. Well, I'm glad that you made it back home safe, Anna. does my heart good to see you here. Problem. Hello, Adele. How's life going for you lately? Are you, is life calming down a little bit for you? Also, Carrie did not get any of that weather that Houston got. Just super hot. It's super hot here today, too. I got the air conditioner cranked. Safe, happy, and with more experience, Anna says. I saw some of your pictures. She was bouncing around in Africa. And those were some interesting pictures. Looks like you got to enjoy a bit of the local cultures and have some experiences related to that. You know, this observe, not absorb, also this being an observer, not a participant, comes in really handy with your dealings with other people. So, for example, let's say that you're married and your partner is hard to get along with. And you're working on yourself, and let's say that she is not or he is not. You can still have conversations, even volatile or hostile conversations with a person who is hostile and unhealthy, if you remember to be an observer, not a participant, or to observe, not absorb. So the way that would look is you'd be standing there having a conversation with somebody who is hostile, angry, unhealthy, observing and trying to understand what's really going on with them, but not absorbing it yourself. Observing the way that she or he is behaving unhealthily, but not behaving unhealthily yourself. You see, that's what I mean by being an observer, not a participant. Or like our member here on Locals calls it observing, not absorbing. So person's being hostile, they're mad, they're talking to you, they want to fight. And you're observing it and you're interacting, but you're not absorbing the personal attacks, you're not absorbing the emotion and the energy behind that. You're not participating in the emotionally unhealthy or disrespectful or volatile way of communicating. Let's see, let me catch up here. Adele just moved back to Dublin. A lot of changes there. You had been gone for 20 years or something like that, right, Adele, if I'm not mistaken? Anna says that she got to live inside Africa, and it was very interesting. Adele says very expensive to live in Dublin. So she's got roommates. And it's very strange after 26 years of living with my husband. Do they put the toilet seat down? That's probably the most important question. Do your roommates put the toilet seat down? A little bit of humor there, but yeah, I can imagine that would be person would need time, wouldn't they, to kind of get used to that arrangement after living with the same person for 26 years. I kind of miss the days that most of the time I did not have roommates. I had a roommate for a brief period of time in my early 20s, course, after my divorce with Diana, I just lived by myself. And that was a fun time of life, adventurous, exciting. You never knew, like, no constraints, nobody telling me I can't go out. Being able to do whatever I wanted to do when I wanted to do it. For what it was at the time, it wasn't too bad. All right, so we got to talk a little bit about being an observer, not a participant, or as our last symptom friend likes to say it, observing, not absorbing. Now let's talk about hope versus expectation. Hope versus expectation. I never give up hope on the people that I love, the people in my relatives and stuff, who are very unhealthy. I have conditions built around myself that keep a lot of those people out of my life. And I never give up hope for them. I talk to a lot of people, and they say, oh, my husband's a lost cause. I say, well, hey, I used to be the lost cause. Don't give up hope on your husband. But let's have a discussion now about what hope is not. Hope is not the same as expectation. So notice that when I talk about, like, my father, for example, I always talk about how I have great hope for him. What I'm not saying is that I have great expectation about my dad. I'm not sitting around expecting him to do one thing or do another thing. But I'm hoping positive things. So can you make the distinction? I'll tell you why it's important. Because failed expectation leads to frustration and angst and unhappiness. So let's say that I expect you to do a certain thing, but then you choose not to do it. What is the only thing that can result in? The only thing it can result in is deep discontent and frustration for me. But now notice how hope doesn't do that. You can hope the best for somebody, which is not the same as expecting that they'll do something, but you can hope the best for somebody. And then what happens when you're living with hope toward a person is that if they do it, you're super happy for them. If they don't do it, you're not disappointed, and you don't have the floor pulled out from underneath of you. You haven't suffered the frustration and the disappointment of an expectation not being met. But hope is kind of neutral. It's like, I would hope that this person will do what they need to do to get healthy and be happy. But I'm not expecting it. But I'm hoping that for them. And that way that you don't ever find yourself in a situation where if they don't do that, because you see, we're talking about people who have the full power to make decisions for their own lives. You can't build expectations that in that sense. I mean, you can't build expectations around people and their own lives and their own decisions, because they have the full freedom to make any choices for their life that they want to, the same as you and I do. So if you build an expectation or hold a person to an expectation that is really under their control and their control only, you're probably going to end up frustrated and unhappy. That doesn't mean, though, that you can't hope for them. You can't hope good things for them. Hello, Laura. Nice to see you here. Anna says that her ex is going to the psychologist on his own initiative. Does that surprise you, Anna? Does it surprise you that your ex-husband is going to talking to somebody about these sorts of things on his own initiative? I'll tell you another thing about hope. Hope is an inherent aspect of genuine love. Anna says, of course, I thought he was kind of a lost cause. There you go. And I'm glad for you to share that, Anna, because you and I have had, well, publicly on these live streams, we've had discussions about how you need to be hopeful toward him, even if he's wronged you in terrible ways. You got to maintain hope for him. Laura, I'm feeling good. Thank you for asking. How are you feeling? So this is kind of what I'm talking about. Anna says that she hopes the best for her ex-husband. It surprised her when he started going and exploring these things on his own. That's kind of exactly what I'm talking about. If you just live with hope for a person, when they do something positive like that, it's a great, pleasant surprise. You're happy for them. But if they don't do it, you're not losing any of your inner peace either. You only lose your inner peace when, instead of simply hoping the best for a person, you expect them to do a certain thing that you want them to do. Because then when they don't do that, then it just leads to great discontent. So did you notice what I said? One of the identifying aspects of love, or one of the facets of genuine love, is that it never loses hope. See how important it is. It never loses hope. It even hopes good things for people that might be considered our enemies. You can hope good things for that a person comes to their senses, acts a different way, learns, grows, evolves, those sorts of things, even when there's somebody that we consider an enemy. Love never loses hope. Not the same as saying love lives with the expectation that a thing will happen. It's just that I hope that the best thing will happen. Adele, do you miss France? Adele recently left France after living there for a long time. Went back to her native Ireland. A lot of times when I talk to, let's say, a husband, or I talk to a wife, and I tell them, worry about yourself, focus on yourself. Hello, Nana, good to have you here. I say, focus on yourself, worry about yourself. Don't worry what she's doing or not doing, or whether she's doing something right or she's doing something wrong. Worry about whether you're doing what's right or what's wrong. Worry about focusing on yourself, identifying your own flaws, and working on your own flaws. And a person might say, well, wait a second. My partner already accuses me of being selfish and self-centered. So when you talk that way, Barnett, aren't you telling me to be more selfish and more self-centered? When you tell me to focus more on myself and not worry about others, aren't you telling me to be more self-centered, and selfish? The answer is no. There's two different types of focusing upon self and worrying about self. One originates from self-loathing and from insecurity, and the other one originates from self-love. Well, what's the natural results of the origin of one and as compared to the origin of the other? In the first case, that results in selfishness. So if you're selfish, self-loathing, insecure, and everything's all about you, you see how that's coming from insecurity. It's almost like you have some chocolates and you don't want to share the chocolates, or you're afraid you're constantly on guard of somebody stealing your chocolates. Now compare that to the healthy person who is focusing on self out of self-love for healthy reasons. Imagine that person has chocolates. Then how does that translate into their behaviors and their thinking and stuff? If I've got chocolates, I'm a healthy guy, I'm learning to love myself. The natural result of that is, instead of guarding the chocolates and saying, hey, stay away from my chocolates, these are my chocolates, that person who's being motivated for those reasons will say, look, I've got some chocolates, let me share my chocolates with you. So the origin of each type of self-focus results in a different result. The type of selfishness or the type of self-focus that your partner would be complaining about would be originating from unhealthy origins, like self-loathing, insecurities, those sorts of things. An inappropriate view of other people, the value of other people, an inappropriate view of feelings, not just your feelings, but other people's feelings. Whereas self-love naturally translates into love for others. Respect for self naturally translates into respect for others. It involves a proper, healthy view of people as individuals, yourself, and by extension, everybody else. So it's a good question. When I say, don't worry about what she's doing or not doing, focus on yourself. Person says, well, but she's already saying that I'm too selfish and self-centered. It's like being in an airplane. I just heard this illustration again this weekend. It's like being in an airplane and the oxygen masks come down and your child is sitting right next to you. And you say, well, what do I do? Do I put his oxygen mask on first, or do I put mine on first? And an unhealthy person might think, well, if you put yours on first, that's being selfish and self-centered. Well, it's not, because you can't help somebody if you're unconscious. So think about working on yourself, like emotionally. How can you be a good and loving and healthy husband or father if your focus is on them fixing themselves and what they should do and not do, and in doing that, overlooking what you need to do to be healthy and a good father? You see, if you're not healthy, you can't contribute to somebody else's health. You can't do it. And that might be something worth thinking about this afternoon. If you're not healthy, you can't contribute to somebody else's health and happiness and peace. How can you contribute to somebody else's health and happiness and peace? You find it for yourself. See, if you find it for yourself, now you can contribute to the peace, health, and happiness of others. But you can't do it if you're not that yourself, if you're not experiencing that yourself. Let me catch up to the chat here, and I'll tell you what. I'm going to go to the locals only crowd, so I'm going to shut you down there on Rumble and YouTube. Join us over on our online community on Locals if you'd like to participate in the rest of the conversation. Links to do that are over at thelastsymptom.com, and we would love to have you there. You know, the second part of the conversation is the most titillating and most controversial. That's when we get into the the meat and taters of everything. So I'm going to shut down now YouTube and locals, and we're only going to be on locals. Did I say that? I'm going to shut down YouTube and Rumble. We're going to be on locals. And again, thelastsymptom.com, all the information you need to join us is over there. All right, local supporters only. Guys, thanks for joining us. We'll see you over on locals.